back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have everybody here on this Tuesday, December 5th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, the link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. With that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about today. So, the first topic of the show, we'll go over last night's game between the Bengals and the Jaguars. The Bengals upsetting the Jaguars 34-31. We'll get into that and what happened in that game. In the second part of the show, we'll talk about the possibility of a non-quarterback winning MVP this year. I'll talk about some of the candidates that could maybe win MVP that aren't quarterbacks, so we'll get into that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about the quarterback injuries, because last night there was yet another quarterback injury, and we'll get into that when we go over the game from last night. And then in the final part of the show, we'll go through the current standings after Week 13. So that's the rundown for the show today. And I apologize if you could hear in the background, my neighbors are getting work done, yard work done, so that's why you could hear, some background noise. So anyways, let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about last night's game. And I lost this game in the spread pool. I originally had the Bengals getting the 8.5, and then I switched it, of course. It was a pretty exciting game. It was back and forth all the way, and the Bengals, they got the win in overtime, 34-31. So let's kind of go through it and discuss what transpired in the game. So the Jaguars, they started off the game. They went, the Bengals started off the game. I was actually out for the start of this game, so I missed the beginning of it. So the Bengals, they turned it over on downs. Jake Browning got sacked at the Jacksonville 44 on 4th and 3. Jacksonville took over, and on their first drive, they went down the field, 7 plays, 51 yards, 3 minutes, 49 seconds of time of possession. Christian Kirk actually got hurt on this play, on the first play. Trevor Lawrence completed a 26-yard pass to him, and he actually got hurt on the play, and he was ruled out. So that was a big loss for Jacksonville in the game. But they went right down the field. Travis Etienne scored a rushing touchdown from 4 yards out, and Jacksonville was up 7-0. Then the Bengals missed a field goal, so it kind of looked like, this might not be the Bengals' day here. Then the Jags punted. Then the Bengals went 8 plays, 92 yards, 3 minutes, and 52 seconds of time possession. They went down the field, and Joe Mixon from 6 yards out scored a touchdown, so that tied the game at 7. Then in the second quarter, the Jags went 10 plays, 75 yards, 6 minutes of time of possession. They went down the field. Trevor Lawrence connected with Evan Ingram from 22 yards out, his first touchdown of the season, to put the Jags up 14-7. And then the Bengals on their drive responded with the 12-play, 75-yard drive, 5 minutes, 20 seconds of time of possession. Joe Mixon, another rushing touchdown to tie the game at 14, and that was the score at the half. Then to open up the third quarter, the Jags punted. Bengals, 3 plays, 84 yards. Jake Browning connected with Jamar Chase for 76 yards to put them up by 7. Then on the Jags drive, they tied the game Trevor Lawrence connected with the rookie Washington, who actually had a big game for 14 yards and a touchdown. The first play of the Bengals' next drive, they tried doing that trick play where Browning threw it to Tyler Boyd, and then Boyd threw it back to Mixon, or he tried to throw it back to Mixon, and it ended up getting picked off by Josh Allen. And the Jags took advantage of that. They scored a touchdown on that drive. Trevor Lawrence, on 4th and goal, actually, scored the 1-yard touchdown. So that put them up 28-21. Both teams punted. Then in the fourth quarter, the Bengals, they went down the field, 9 plays, 48 yards, 5 minutes, 16 seconds of time of possession. And Jake Browning had a 1-yard rushing touchdown. So that tied the game. Then on this drive, this is where the quarterback injury happened. So the Jags were going down the field. They were driving. And Trevor Lawrence got sacked. And his lineman, stepped on his foot. And he ended up leaving the game with an ankle injury. Now, it looks like it's just an ankle sprain. So that's good that it's not broken. As of right now, they said it's an ankle sprain. So it's to be determined if how much time he's going to miss, if he's going to miss any at all. But he ended up leaving the game because of that, and it's just horrible because it's yet another quarterback injury this year. Hopefully, again, he doesn't miss too much time, if he misses any time at all. But it looked like it was worse than it actually turned out being. So at least that's what it is right now, that he just has an ankle sprain. So then Brandon McManus from 48 yards missed the field goal. Then the Bengals, on their next drive, 7 plays, 26 yards, 2.5 minutes of time of possession. They went down the field. Evan McPherson kicked a 54-yard field goal to put them up 31-28. So then C.J. Beathard, remember him? He had to come in. And literally on the first play, he fumbles. He starts scrambling, he fumbles, and Washington, the rookie, picked it up and recovered the fumble, thankfully for the Jaguars at that point. And he was actually holding his wrist, Beathard, after that play. And the Jags didn't have another quarterback active. So now, obviously, he finished the game, but that would have been terrible if he ended up getting hurt, and then Jacksonville has no quarterback active. So Jags ended up getting into field goal range. He completed a pass for 14 yards to Evan Ingram, then 19 yards to Travis Etienne. And then Brandon McManus from the Cincinnati 22 kicked a 40-yard field goal. And that tied the game at 31. So we go into overtime. Jacksonville punted. And then the Bengals, on their drive, went 12 plays, 42 yards down the field. And Evan McPherson kicked the game-winning 48-yard field goal. And Cincinnati gets a win. They improved to 6-6. And the Jags dropped to 30. Saying their score. They dropped to 8-4 on the season, which is a big loss because, like I said, Jacksonville's got to be careful because you got the Colts and the Texans right behind you. I mean, they still, they picked up the win against the Texans, last week, but the race is not over by any means. So yeah, that was a big loss for the Jags. And the Bengals, hey, listen, they're 6-6 and they're still in it. And if Jake Browning could play like he did last night, the Bengals got a shot. I mean, he went 32 of 37, 354 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks. Joe Mixon ran the ball for 68 yards. Chase Brown actually had 9 carries for 61 yards as well. He had a 31-yard carry late in the game. Bengals ran the ball for 156 yards. And that was something that I said. They're ranked last in terms of rushing yards per game. So, that was big for them. Jamar Chase had a great game, 11 receptions for 149 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, the big play, the 76-yard touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, Jake Browning can play like listen, if they didn't do that trick play, I mean, you take 7 points off the board for the Jags, they might not even go into overtime. He didn't make any mistakes, Browning. So, that was... that was a good performance by him, and that's very encouraging going forward for the Bengals if, he can keep that going. So Trevor Lawrence, before he got hurt, he went 22 of 29, 258 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks. C.J. Beathard went 9 for 10 for 63 yards. Travis Etienne was their leading rusher. He had 45 yards rushing and a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence had a rushing touchdown as well. Evan Ingram had 9 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. Zay Jones had 5 for 78. And the rookie Parker Washington, who I talked about before, he had 6 receptions for 61 yards and the touchdown. Calvin Ridley had 4 for 26. Etienne had 4 for 34. But yeah, that's a big loss for the Jags. And again, hopefully Trevor Lawrence does not miss an extended period of time here. But that's not good for the Jags by any means. So yeah, I'm looking at Sleeper right now. It says Trevor Lawrence may have avoided serious injury. The Jaguars are optimistic that Lawrence may have avoided a serious injury after departing the game. Mike Garafolo of NFL Network reported that. It says he's set to undergo further medical testing Tuesday, so it shouldn't be long before the Jaguars release an official update on the star quarterback. But yeah, it says it's believed that Trevor Lawrence suffered an ankle sprain. But, again, more testing is going to be done. Hopefully, hopefully that's what it is. And he doesn't miss, because we'll talk about it later in the show, but these quarterback injuries have just been horrible this year. We're going to go through all of them, but I keep saying it, every week. I'm like, please, just enough with the injuries. But it's just, again, another week, another big star gets hurt. I mean, and it's not like it was a non-contact injury. It was just his lineman stepped on him. And then, it's just terrible that, that this continues to happen. And especially like for the Jags, because right now, they could possibly get the 1 seed in the AFC. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but, you don't want to lose your star quarterback. Because you got that, and then also, like I said, the division race in the AFC South is close. You still got to put. I think actually no, they don't. They already played the Colts twice. I forgot that they played them already in Jacksonville the second time, because I know they opened up the season against the Colts. But yeah, I mean it's one game separates them and the Texans and the Colts. So. And then as for Jacksonville, when it comes to their schedule, they're at Cleveland next week, which if you don't have Trevor Lawrence, I mean, the Browns have their quarterback issues, but still, like, you got to go against that defense on the road. That's going to be a tough game. And then you have the Ravens. Then you have the Bucs in Tampa, which I think if Trevor Lawrence is playing, they should win that game. They should beat Carolina at home, and then they should beat Tennessee in Tennessee. So the toughest game left on their schedule is home against the Ravens. But if they don't have Trevor Lawrence against the Browns, like, I don't know if they're going to win that game. But we'll just have to wait and see. And then for the Bengals, I mean, they're still in it. And they play the Colts in Week 14 at home. I mean, if Jake Browning can play like he played against the Jaguars, they could definitely win that game. Then they're home against the Vikings for that Saturday tripleheader. They could win that game. They could definitely win at Pittsburgh. I mean, they only lost to Pittsburgh 16-10. At Kansas City is going to be tough. And then they're home against the Browns. So, I mean, the Bengals aren't out of it, but I don't really see them making it. But, again, if Jake Browning keeps playing like he did yesterday, they got a shot. Because they got a good team. They still have a good team. If they can continue to run the football like they did yesterday, if, you hit Jamar Chase on those big plays, T. Higgins came back, Tyler Boyd obviously is a good number 3. The defense has been a little bit of an issue this year, but this team is still good. And if they could get, not Joe Burrow level quarterback play, but if they can get some decent quarterback play, maybe they can find their way in. But it's going to be tough. So, yeah. So with that is that's basically it when it comes to this segment, though. Again, hopefully we're hoping for good news when it comes to Trevor Lawrence and that he's not going to miss an extended period of time, but we'll just have to wait and see. So with that, we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the possibility of a non-quarterback winning NFL MVP this year, because I think there's definitely a case for that. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the possibility of a non-quarterback winning MVP this year. And I'll try to make my case for that. Now, because it's an interesting conversation to have. Now, is a quarterback going to win MVP? Most likely. You look at Dak Prescott and how he's played recently. He's really starting to... I mean, I talked about the MVP odds last week, and the Heisman odds as well. I think especially after... And that was before, Dak Prescott's performance on Thursday and, obviously what happened in the Niners-Eagles game and how the Niners just destroyed the Eagles. Dak Prescott is really, trending up in terms of, the MVP. He's got to be up there, and Brock Purdy as well, and how he performed in the game against the Eagles. That was a big performance. Jalen Hurts, was the favorite. So you look at those three guys, and you could throw, C.J. Stroud in there as well. Mahomes is always going to be part of the conversation, but he's not going to win this year. So yeah, it's probably going to be a quarterback that wins, but there's definitely a few players that you could look at and make the case that they can win MVP. The big one for me is Tyreek Hill. Now, Tua could also be part of the conversation as well, but I feel like if Tyreek Hill gets 2,000 yards this year, I feel like you might have to give it to him because he has been unbelievable this year. Now, you could also look at the fact that, the NFL added an extra game, so it's going to be easier for him to get it. But it's going to be close. It's going to be close because right now, we'll go look at his stats on the season really quick. So right now he is almost 1,500 yards receiving. And we have, we got week 14. So we got about 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, we got 5 weeks left in the regular season. He's got 1,481 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns on the season. I mean, I feel like he's got to be up there in the MVP voting. And again, if you get to 2,000 yards, I mean, it's hard to not give him consideration. So I mean, for me, I feel like he should get it. And the other players that been discussed as well. You got Myles Garrett and the season he's had this year. One of the top players in sacks, of course. I mean, the guy is one of the best defensive players in football. That's somebody else that, especially like conversations that I've had with my friends, he's definitely someone that should be considered. He's got 13 sacks on the season. Khalil Mack actually leads the way with 15. But yeah, he's got 13 sacks. He's got 4 fumbles on the season. Yeah, I mean, he's having a great year. And I think, he's up there for Defensive Player of the Year, definitely. Then you also got Christian McCaffrey as well. I mean, he's been off the charts this year, too. I mean, really only one game where he didn't score a touchdown, and they tried their hardest to get him into the end zone, but they couldn't. It was against Jacksonville. I feel like McCaffrey's got to be in that conversation as well. I know, I think, people are talking about Deron Bland because of the amount of pick sixes that he's had this year, but I don't think that's going to happen. I really think it's going to come down to, I think Tyreek Hill has the best chance out of the non-quarterbacks to win MVP. And the last time that was done was Adrian Peterson in 2012. And I just feel like Tyreek Hill is having that kind of year where, I feel like he should win it because there's really no quarterback that's really, lighting it up this year. Like guys are having good years, but you're not seeing, a spectacular season like when Tom Brady threw 50 touchdowns, Peyton Manning threw 55, Aaron Rodgers and his back-to-back MVPs. We're not really seeing anything like that this year because, you look at, C.J. Stroud leads the way in now he leads the way in passing yards. Sam Howell is second. Is Sam Howell going to win MVP? No. You got Tua up there, Dak. I mentioned them before. Jared Goff. You could throw him in there as well, but I don't think he's going to win MVP. Stroud's definitely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But it's kind of tough. Because you look at like 26, I think Dak Prescott has 26 touchdowns. I think that's the most in the NFL right now. Let me just take a quick scan through it. Yeah, Dak Prescott has the most touchdowns at 26. And, it's very good still. But I feel like, the most somebody might end up with might be like around like 40, which is still again really good. But I don't know. We'll just have to see how it ends up. But I think for me, if Tyreek Hill gets to 2,000 yards, he should win it. I think so. But it's just kind of it's just interesting. We still got some time left. We still got a handful of games left where that could all change. But I feel like this definitely could be a year where that happens. But we'll just have to wait and see. There's still plenty of time left. Guys could fall off a little bit towards the end, and then other guys that have been on the bubble, they just go off these last several games, and that changes the conversation. But I don't know. I feel like this is just one of those years where you're just like, I don't really know. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air right now. Because, like I said, Jalen Hurts looked like he was the favorite, and then they just got blown out by the Niners. So that's really going to hurt, his well, I shouldn't say it's really going to hurt, but it's going to do some damage to his MVP consideration. And I know a lot of people are complaining about the fact that, he's got all these rushing touchdowns, but basically all of them are from the tush push. I think he's going to break Cam Newton's rushing touchdown record, or he already did. And it's going to be because of the tush push, when meanwhile Cam Newton was, dragging people into the end zone, getting knocked up in the air, doing a flip, and landing on his feet in the end zone. I think, because it was that one hit he took in 2015 where he literally did a flip in the air, and he scored a touchdown on that. But yeah, I get it, and I think they want to ban the tush push, but the reason why the Eagles are able to do that is because of their offensive line. If they did not have that offensive line, they would not be able to do that. But we'll just have to see what happens there. But I think this is an interesting conversation to have, just because, I've thought about doing topics on the MVP, and I'm like, there's really I don't think there's really a clear-cut favorite right now, and I don't really think it's a quarterback. There's not really, you can't really look at one player and say he's definitely the MVP. Now there's guys, again, all these guys that I've mentioned, they have a shot to win MVP, but I can't sit here and be like, this guy is definitely going to win MVP. I can't really say that. Like Dak Prescott, he's been trending up. Brock Purdy, he's had a great season. Jalen Hurts has been good. Turnovers have been an issue, but he's still been good. He's got the team with the best record in the NFL right now. He's a big part of that. you also have, like I said, there's Jared Goff and Tua that have an outside shot at quarterback. Again, Mahomes is always part of the conversation, but yeah, I mean, I feel like a non-quarterback could win it, and I think Tyreek Hill. I think he's got to get consideration for MVP. So, and it's all going to come down to how these final games go. There's still time, but like I said, I think it's an interesting conversation to be had because to me, I don't really think there's like a clear cut favorite for MVP, and I think a lot of people are kind of in the same boat as that. Where it's just you just have no idea who it's going to be. So, well, again, like I always say, we just got to wait and see. Just got to wait and see how it all unfolds in these final games here. We're now in week 14. We'll see how it all goes. But some of these quarterbacks are Hurts is a little dinged up. He left the game briefly for the Niners against the Niners. Was able to come back in and finish the game. So we'll just see. We just got to see how it goes. But it's going to be fun too. It's going to be a fun conversation to be had. And we'll see if Tyreek Hill gets 2,000 yards. I mean, he had a big game on Sunday against the Commanders. The Commanders just, again, picked up where they left off on Thanksgiving, where they just were letting guys run free. The Commanders are a bad team. They are a bad team. And Tyreek Hill exploited that. Because he actually was saying how, I think it was on the first touchdown. At least it was on one of the touchdown passes that he caught. He said he ran the wrong route, and he was still able to adjust and catch the ball and score. And the Commanders just looked so lost on both of his touchdowns. And I picked him. Yeah, I picked him with the 9.5. I thought Sam Howell could, put up some points, but again, I was wrong. So I'm kind of done picking the Commanders this year, and they're on a bye, so don't have to worry about them this week. So I ended up with 7 again. So that's been the story this year in the spread pool. It's been 7 or 8 this year. It's not good, not good. And there's not a lot of time left, so I got to step it up this week, and we'll see how this week goes. But kind of expecting more of the same. So, but you never know. You never know. Crazier things have happened. So, but let me know what you guys think. Does Tyreek Hill, have a case to, maybe be an MVP candidate this year? I mean, he definitely is. It's just, can he win it? I mean, I think he definitely can. If he gets to 2,000 yards, I think that's a very strong case. But again, you got to see how the quarterbacks play down the stretch, what they do. And that'll, kind of dictate if that's the case or not. So, with that being said, we'll take our second break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll discuss the quarterback injuries that have occurred this year. We'll go through, the list of quarterbacks. But before I do that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you, the viewer. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed. Excuse me. Man, losing my voice there. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will discuss the quarterback injuries that had occurred over the course of the year. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're now going to talk about the quarterback injuries that have occurred this year. Because the list just keeps getting larger and larger. And now, the ones that occurred over the weekend, again, wait and see on Trevor Lawrence. But there was also another quarterback injury as well. And this quarterback's gotten knocked around a lot this year. And that's Derek Carr. So he's dealing with a rib injury, and right now he's also in concussion protocol. I haven't watched Saints games religiously all year, but he's gotten hurt a lot, and I feel bad for him. I really do. I think the Saints have been a real disappointment this year, and they really got to fix this team next year. They need a new head coach. But they also need to improve the offensive line. They got to fix the defense. The Saints have a lot of issues, but they invested, a lot in Derek Carr, and I still think Derek Carr is a good quarterback. He hasn't been great this year, but the Saints, they show flashes where you're like, wow, that was a good drive or that was a good play, and then they, all of a sudden. Derek Carr just throws a pick six to Jesse Bates. Like, they're driving against the Falcons. He throws a pick six. So Derek Carr has been very Jekyll and Hyde this year. But, again, I feel terrible for him because he's just been getting knocked around constantly this year. And he's dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, he left the game early against the Packers. He left the game early against the Vikings. This game against the Lions this past weekend. I mean, he's getting hurt a lot. Credit to him because, he's really tough. I mean, he comes back in. It's not like he hasn't missed a game this year, I don't believe. But he's had to leave games early because he gets hurt. So the Saints got to do a better job of protecting their quarterback. But that's just, one of the injuries. That was the other quarterback injury that occurred this weekend. So let me actually look at. I'm just going to check Sleeper really quick. So yeah, he's in concussion protocol and dealing with a rib injury. It was also thought to have a shoulder injury, but it seems to be fine. Carr suffered his second concussion in a month. So it says there's a good chance he misses Week 14 against the Panthers. Jameis Winston will start for New Orleans in that case. Taysom Hill could also see more work in a Wildcat quarterback situation. So Derek Carr might not play this week. Well, yeah, this week against the Panthers. But, yeah, I mean, it's just terrible that, he just continues to get knocked around and he's getting so many injuries. So, yeah, like I said, the Saints got to do some work this offseason. Then, of course, last night you had Trevor Lawrence getting hurt, the ankle injury, getting stepped on. It's just... You hope for the best. And again, there seems to be some positive news with that. So hopefully he doesn't miss time. Because listen, you want to see him in the playoffs again. This is a good team, the Jags. I mean, they've been inconsistent a little bit this year, especially on offense. But I don't want to see another young quarterback getting hurt. Because listen, we're not going to have Burrow in the playoffs. We're not going to have Herbert. We're not going to have Josh Allen, most likely. But we'll see. You want to see Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs. So, again, we'll just have to wait and see. Also, another quarterback that got hurt. You had Kenny Pickett getting hurt. He's actually going to miss, some time. He will not be playing on Thursday against the Patriots. We're going to get to see Mitchell Trubisky go up against, I guess, Bailey Zappi. He's starting. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And this is coming off of, the Steelers did not play well on Sunday against the Cardinals. But it was a weird game because you had the two weather delays. It was, the Cardinals, they looked like the better team in the game. But, and I know people are saying, how could the Steelers lose to the Cardinals? They have only 2 wins. But they got Kyler Murray back. With Kyler Murray, they are not a 2-win team. They're a better team. James Conner's back. That rookie Trey McBride, their tight end, I mean, he looks like he's going to be a good player. I know I picked him up in a couple of leagues, in fantasy, and he's been great. So I'm not really going to sit here and be like, well, yeah, the Steelers, like, yeah, should the Steelers have won that game? Yes. But, I don't look at the Cardinals with Kyler Murray back as as like one of the worst teams in football, because I don't think they are with Kyler Murray being back. Because if Kyler Murray played the whole year, they'd have more than 3 wins. They might still have a losing record, but, I don't look at them as, a bad team. Well, they're still a bad team, but, with Kyler Murray back, it's definitely different. But, yeah, I mean, Kenny Pickett getting hurt. Yeah, it just, again, it's unfortunate, and hopefully he gets back soon, because Mitchell Trubisky's not really good either. So and the Steelers right now, they need to, continue to win games, because, I mean, you still got a lot of teams that could catch up to them, and they could very easily, like, fall out of a playoff spot, if they continue to lose. So, and against the Bengals, they put up 400 yards of offense. So it was like, okay, maybe the offense is going to start getting it going. I mean, the first drive of the game, I mean, they kicked the field goal, but they hit on that long pass to Pickens. So, and they were running the football better. But now they lost their quarterback. So Mitchell Trubisky's going to have to step up. And then, of course, you look at the season-ending injuries. You got Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, and Daniel Jones. Aaron Rodgers, is he going to come back this year? No, he should not. Aaron Rodgers should not play this year, especially with what happened on Sunday with the Jets losing to the Falcons 13-8. Rest up for next year. Every time I've talked about Aaron Rodgers on this show here, I was right here in this room. I was standing over there, right in front of my TV, and I saw him go down. And again, I'm not a Jet fan, but I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I was beside myself. I really was. That was pretty depressing, because I really wanted to see what he was going to do this year. And at that point, I'm like, I don't know if he's going to come back. He's going to call it a career. But he's going to come back. It's just I don't know, like, how it's going to turn out. But again, similar to Derek Carr, I mean, the Jets are going to have to, fix their offensive line and get them more weapons for next year, because right now the team, at least on the offensive side of the ball, as it's, presently constructed, I don't. They gotta improve there, because he could get hurt again. Offensive line. If they don't improve the offensive line, he's gonna get hurt again. So, yeah, it's bad, and it's crazy. Again, it's crazy how the Jets were still able to beat the Eagles, but yeah. So, Rodgers, that was with the Achilles. You also had Kirk Cousins with the Achilles. That's gonna be an interesting situation, because the Vikings gonna bring him back. I mean, it definitely hurts. Him getting another contract. I mean, he's going to get another contract. But, it's... I mean, Kirk Cousins was on his way to having a great season, too. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation if he kept playing the way he was playing. But then he unfortunately got hurt, in Lambeau. And, that's another situation where we just don't know. Like, is he... I mean, I think the Vikings should still bring him back, because they kind of have question marks at quarterback. I mean, the Josh Dobbs story was looking great. Now, the last couple of games it wasn't. The Vikings were on a bye, so, maybe they're able to figure it out. They're getting Justin Jefferson back, so that'll definitely help. But Vikings, they definitely miss Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins wouldn't have had the performance that Josh Dobbs had on Monday night a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that was another bad injury. Then you also had Anthony Richardson, of course, who he dealt with injuries more than just a season-ending shoulder injury. I mean, he also got hurt. I think he got a concussion. So he left the game early. We really never got to see him play, and when he was on the field, he was electric. So, and Gardner Minshew, I mean, credit to him. He's done a fabulous job filling in for Anthony Richardson. And I keep saying the Colts are going to be good. I mean, continue to improve the team, and this team is going to be good. I mean, they're 7-5 right now, and it's a miracle, and it's a credit to the coaching staff as well. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we really never got to see Anthony Richardson play the full season. So hopefully next year he was able to stay healthy. So, and then of course you got Joe Burrow getting hurt, the wrist injury. Again, there was a lot of how that was handled was very strange. That he wasn't on the injury report, and then he got hurt. Throwing the touchdown to Joe Mixon against the Ravens. Sorry, my voice is going again. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, another injury with Burrow. Because he's been, this year in his rookie season, outside of that, 2021 and last year, he's been healthy. And this year was just one of those years that he got hurt again. And he's going to be missed, with the playoffs coming up. So hopefully he comes back healthy next year. Then you also had Deshaun Watson with the shoulder. You feel bad for the Browns because their quarterback situation is a mess. I mean, it's been so much of a mess that they had to bring in Joe Flacco to come in and play quarterback. And again, I said it yesterday, I really didn't think he played that bad. Especially for a guy just coming off of his couch. And especially because you're stepping into a good situation with the Browns. You got a decent running game. Offensive line is good. Weapons are good. Joe Flacco should be able to do okay, with his experience. With the Jets, you were behind a bad O-line. You had rookie Garrett Wilson and rookie Breece Hall, who were good players, obviously, but, obviously they had to, get their legs underneath them when it came to the, to the NFL. So, with the Browns, you got Amari Cooper, who's actually been banged up recently. David Njoku's been good this year. So Flacco stepped into the Browns situation on offense is better than what he was dealing with the Jets last year. Really the O-line is what the issue is because the Browns have a good O-line. But yeah, Deshaun Watson getting hurt, even though he wasn't playing great this year. Again, you just feel for Browns fans. And then obviously for the Giants, you had Daniel Jones getting hurt, tearing his ACL. But before that, he had the neck injury. They get him back, and then his knee buckles and he tears his ACL against the Raiders. And because of that, we learned a lot about Tommy DeVito and what he's all about. And credit to him, he's won a couple of games. The Daniel Jones stuff is going to be very interesting because it seems like the Giants are going to bring him back. And I kept saying I think he played his last game as a Giant, but I guess not. I guess we might be seeing him again next year. So maybe the Giants still draft a quarterback and Jones is kind of like, the bridge quarterback. Jones plays out this contract, and then we move off of him, and the new quarterback takes over, whoever that's going to be. And I'm fine with that. But listen, I'm not a big Daniel Jones. I'm not a Daniel Jones believer. I wasn't. Last year I started to, get towards that, and then this year kind of, took a massive step back, and he got injured too. I don't think it's all of his fault, of course, but I just don't think I don't think the Giants are going to win, anything with Daniel Jones as their quarterback. I don't. But don't want to see him get hurt because I really wanted to see what he could do, and we just never really got to see that. So, but yeah, the quarterback injuries. It's unbelievable. This is one of the worst years for it. So, Hopefully this doesn't happen next year, but who knows. So with that, we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the current standings after Week 13. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about the current standings after Week 13. We'll go over them, and that'll basically be the end of the show. So we'll start off with the AFC. So the Dolphins, they're at 9-3. Bills are 6-6, 3 games back. Jets are 4-8. Patriots are 2-10. I still cannot believe that the Patriots have this bad of a record. Never thought that would be the case, but here we are. So then in the AFC North, you got the Ravens at 9-3, Steelers 7-5, Browns 7-5, and then the Bengals are 6-6. And it's kind of funny because, well, it's not really funny, but I would say it's weird. It's weird how in years past, you had all these quarterbacks that weren't on the Ravens. Like Lamar Jackson would be the quarterback that's hurt. The other quarterbacks in the division would be healthy. Now it's the complete opposite. You got Lamar Jackson as the only healthy starting QB, and you got Jake Browning for the Bengals now. Flacco is playing for the Browns, and then you got Mitchell Trubisky now, who's going to be the starter for the Steelers until Kenny Pickett comes back. Now there's probably going to be people out there that are going to be like, well, if these guys didn't get hurt, the Ravens went. The Ravens are a good team. The Ravens are a good team. I'm not gonna be one of those people, but I feel like there's definitely people out there that are gonna say that. So, yeah. So then for the AFC South, now with the Jags losing, the Colts and the Texans are 1 game back. So the Jags are 8-4. Texans and the Colts are 7-5. Titans are 4-8. Then in the AFC West, the Broncos, they could have picked up a game on the Chiefs if they would have won. But they didn't. They dropped to 6-6. Chiefs are 8-4. Chargers and Raiders are both 5-7. Then in the NFC, you got the Eagles at 10-2. Cowboys are 9-3. Big Sunday night matchup. Big. Because they could tie the Eagles. Then you got the Giants at 4-8. There's people still out there saying, hey, they still got a shot. Still got to play the Eagles twice. Yeah. So it's not going to go good. And, of course, one of those games is going to be on Christmas, and that is going to just – I honestly am not – I'm going to watch it for fantasy purposes, but other than that, it's just – it's going to be it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. So the Giants, 4-8. Commanders 4-9. NFC North, the Lions are 9-3. Vikings and Packers are 6-6. They're 3 games out, but, yeah, their focus is going to be on the wild card. And then you got the Bears, who are 4-8. Then our favorite division, the NFC South. Falcons are 6-6. Bucks are 5-7. Saints are 5-7. Panthers are 1-11. They're officially eliminated from any kind of playoff contention. They still had some hope with the division, if you even want to call it that, because I said there was a scenario in which the Panthers could still win the division when they were 1-10, but that's out the window now. It's not happening. And then in the NFC West, Niners are 9-3, Rams are 6-6, Seahawks are 6-6, Cardinals are 3-10. When it comes to the NFC South, still holding out that the Bucs can somehow pass the Falcons. They do play the Falcons this week in Atlanta. They already lost to them, but their offense has been kind of struggling as of late. So, and the Falcons' offense isn't great either, but we'll see how it goes. But unfortunately, I'm kind of leaning towards taking the Falcons. which actually is good because if I do that and the Bucks win, then the Bucks will be in first place, I think. So that would be great. I'd take that. We'll just have to wait and see. So when we go to how the wild card and the seedings are currently at the moment, so you got the Dolphins have the 1 seed right now. Ravens have the 2, Chiefs have the 3, Jaguars have the 4, then the Steelers have the top wild card spot. The Browns have the 2nd, Colts have the 3rd. All 3 of those teams are 7-5. You got the Texans who are tied at 7-5. I think the Texans are going to get in. I think one of these teams is going to fall out. Especially with it's going to be hard to overcome these quarterback injuries. And that's the thing. Gardner Minshew, again, he's another backup quarterback that's in, but he's playing good. No disrespect to Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew's solid. I think he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL. 'Cause he's a guy that started too. And he didn't do bad with the Eagles last year. Filling in for Hurts. Well, I'm pretty sure they lost like both games. They lost to the Saints, and they lost to the Cowboys. But he did play well against the Cowboys, but they had a lot of turnovers in that game. In general, the Eagles did. But I think Minshew is, if he's not the best, he is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. But yeah, I think the Texans get in. The Bills definitely could still get in. But it's just going to be tough because they got the Chiefs, then they got the Cowboys. Chargers is going to be a shootout probably. Home against the Patriots, then at the Dolphins. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I mean, I mean, it'd be nice to see them in because you see Josh Allen and if the Bills get in as a 7th seed, I mean, nobody's going to want to play them because they got the experience. I know they've been a big disappointment. The last at least last year because you thought they were gonna go further than how they did the previous year, especially with the playoff game that we got to see between him and Mahomes. But yeah, now they there's a possibility they might not make it at all. You still got the Broncos there. I still give the Broncos a good shot. They play the Chargers and they're at the Lions. Lions don't have a good defense, but that's going to be a tough game. Home against the Patriots, home against the Chargers, at the Raiders. Broncos could get to 9 wins and maybe get in, depending on what the other teams do. Bengals are 1 game back. I mean, they have a shot, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to say they can make it, but who knows. We'll move into the NFC now, actually. So you got the Eagles at the 1, Niners are the 2 seed, Lions are the 3, Falcons are the 4, Cowboys are the 5, Vikings are the 6 seed, Packers are the 7th, and then you got the Rams and the Seahawks who are the 8 and 9 teams, and they're tied. But the Packers hold the tiebreaker over those 2 teams. Yeah, Vikings. I mean, what happened with Josh Dobbs on Monday night a couple weeks ago? Yeah, that's an issue, and hopefully they can fix that, and he could be back to how he was playing the first couple of games with the Vikings. You're getting Justin Jefferson back, and it's funny. I've been on and off the Packers, so I was like, hey, maybe this team can be a wild card team this year, and then they just were playing so bad, and I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't look like that's going to happen. And now they've won 3 in a row. They beat the Chiefs this past week. So, then they got the Giants, they got the Bucks, the Panthers, the Vikings, the Bears. I mean, those are all winnable games. This team could definitely get to 9-10 wins. I don't want to say they're going to win every single game, but I think they could get in. I mean, if they win out, they're in. And for the Rams, I mean, they got the Ravens, which I don't think they're going to win. But then you got the Commanders, the Saints. I think you can win those games. At the Giants, I think you should win that game. So that's another team that's looking at 9 wins. The Vikings at the Raiders, that might be a tough game, but I think they can win that. At the Bengals is going to be, I mean, if Jake Browning plays like he did, yesterday, that's going to be a tough game. You play the Lions twice, and you play the Packers in Lambeau. So they got a tougher schedule. And then for Seattle, Yeah, they got the Niners again. Then they got the Eagles at the Titans, home against the Steelers, and then at the Cardinals with Kyler. They got a tough schedule too. So, I mean, you still got the Buccaneers and the Saints who are one game back. Bucks got the Falcons, which, I mean, I thought they could beat the Falcons when they played them back in Week 7, but they lost. So I feel like they're going to lose again. Then they play the Packers, who have been playing better. The Jaguars game is going to be interesting now because, we got to see, is Trevor Lawrence going to be back? Is Trevor Lawrence going to miss an extended period of time? Because if he doesn't play and you're dealing with C.J. Beathard, then that changes everything. Then you're home against the Saints, a team you already beat, and then you're home again, or then you're at Carolina, which I think they should win. Right now, I'm kind of looking at the Bucs as maybe getting 7 wins, which I hope doesn't happen, but that's where I'm at right now with them. And then for the Saints, home against the Panthers, I mean, I think they could still win even without Derek Carr. Home against the Giants, I mean, I think they should win that, but, how they play, who knows. At the Rams, they can win that, but right now I look at the Rams as a better team. At Tampa, they already lost to them, and then they're home against the Falcons. So, I mean, I look at the Saints maybe getting 7, 8 wins. But that's just because of how they've been playing. I mean, they should be playing better than what their record shows. But it's just that the Saints are a weird team. And I keep saying every week, I'm not going to pick them, I'm not going to pick them, I'm not going to pick them. I still pick them, except this past week. I did pick the Lions. But then the Saints I thought were going to cover at one point. And I would have been so mad if that happened. Because, the one week I don't pick them, they finally, cover. And they almost did. I mean, give them credit. They were down 21-0, and they battled back. But it just wasn't enough. And like I said, you got to protect your quarterback better. But that NFC South. And the thing that really angers me is, listen, the Cowboys are a good team, but if they end up not winning the division, they're going to face the winner of the NFC South. That's going to be another, freebie for them to get into the divisional round. Because they're better than every team in that division. The Cowboys playing the Falcons, the Cowboys should win that game easily. But again, crazier things have happened. But that might be what ends up happening. They can end up in Tampa again, the Saints. I mean, the Cowboys are better than all those teams. So, but hey, you know what? The Cowboys, they could still win the division. It's still possible. I mean, this game against the Eagles is huge. We're obviously going to talk about it, during the week. Because, listen, the Cowboys almost beat the Eagles the last time they faced each other in Philly. Now they're at home where they're really good. They did almost lose to Seattle. But, now that, I mean, they could have been looking past Seattle and looking at Philadelphia. And, that's the game that we're ready for. But the thing is, though, the Eagles are coming off of a really bad loss. So they're going to be, they're going to be mad going into this game. So that game's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully. I said Niners-Eagles was going to be a lot of fun, and look what happened with that. Although I was, okay with the outcome. But hopefully the Sunday night game between Dallas and Philly is a classic, because we've seen a lot of those over the years. But, that's pretty much it with the show for today. Make sure to look out for yesterday's show being reposted into the 4 segments. I'll be working on that today. Also the shorts that will be released throughout the day. But, yeah. That is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for watching. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.